as just said. And before we convene to celebrate in earnest with food and drink at Mr. Henry's, I wanted to share with you kind of my perspective in the sense that 30 years ago, which is around the time that I first came to understand what made me different from so many other of my peers in high school, it was a time that was both petrifying and incredibly lonely. I luckily managed to avoid the fate that so many gay teens that befall so many gay teens today in terms of suicide. But that's not to say that it wasn't a very touch and go moment in my life. And at that time, the discourse was more about justifying our own existence. There was this lingering sense of having to make excuses to validate a sense of self-worth, despite the fact that we were different. And so, since that was the case, our imaginations couldn't even open up to the prospect of marriage. It was even sort of strange to think about a sort of ongoing relationship of any permanence. And in fact, at that time, it had been less than a decade that homosexuality was removed from the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual. Really, that's amazing. As an illness, as a disease. 20 years ago, the dialogue and the discourse changed to one that had to do with the validity of the relationships that we could forge. There was a freedom to consider a future that could be shared by two men or two women, but the idea of legally recognized relationships between same-sex couples was only the barest dream. And as Heather was saying, it's really only in the last 10 years that the architectonic plates have begun to shift and ever more rapidly and ever more profoundly change the landscape that had to do with marriage. What we couldn't even imagine in the 80s has become a reality today, at least in the District of Columbia and other places in the United States and around the world. And as much as this ceremony is, in and of itself, a reason to celebrate the joining of our two lives, it is all the more a joyous occasion for the fact that it is not merely a separate but equal substitute. It is the real thing. It's not marriage light. It is exactly what marriage is supposed to be. This day is most certainly a personal moment of triumph for Tom and for me, but it is also one of a number of incremental triumphs for other couples such as ourselves here and elsewhere. And as such, it is even more special to us that all of you are here today participating in the celebration of our wedding. And we thank you, both of us, very much for the gift of your presence. And we can, I think now, finally shut up